You know, it is rare to find people willing to truly put their heart and soul into what they do for the benefit of people they don't know. I know a group of people I call family that does this every day. Whether they are artisans, performers, entertainers, or the patrons who we see every weekend at festivals across the nation, they are truly a unique sort of people, coming together for a single reason and enjoying their lives based on this sense of belonging.
What does the fair mean to me? Good question. I took early retirement about 20 years ago, getting sort of fed up with what I had been doing, and in fact started trying to make a living, at least in part, on fairs.
Festivals became one of my self-care mechanisms a few years ago when I realized that it was a great place to go and meet people and be myself and be weird and wacky. And get things from my environment that my regular environment couldn't provide me for whatever reason.
I'm a very weird person. I'm a very off-the-wall kind of person, and the fair is one of the few places that I can go that I can be weird.
When I look back on a 10-plus year career in circus performance and overall, Renaissance and other kinds of tomfoolery, it all began with fairs. I started my love for this as a child, coming to my very first Renaissance fair.
It's a place where I don't have to pretend to be anything. I can just be me, and it is a carefree day.
It was immediate inclusion. Even though I didn't have a lot of friends and a lot of people I knew, I fit. I fit right in. I felt comfortable. And as the years have gone on, the festival has become my family.
One of the reasons I liked going to the festivals to begin with is because I found it very enlightening. It's a lot of fun, lots of exciting costumes, and I like to make costumes and get ideas, and you meet new people, and I love the landscaping, and I love all the little shops and the different foods you can try.
Being a single mom, it actually means a lot. Being able to spread magic to kids is my favorite thing, being a fairy. Being able to make that interaction with those kids, even some adults, gives them a good memory for the rest of their life, and it makes them want to come back and continue to share that magic with their friends.
Festivals are a part of our business. We perform in bars and tap rooms and Irish festivals and Renaissance festivals and all kinds of stuff, all of which of course was canceled during COVID, but festivals in particular for our business, they're just a great performance venue. Everybody that comes to the gate is there to see some kind of entertainment. It may not be us, it might not be music, it might be jousting, or it might be juggling or something, but they're gonna find what they want to see, and everybody is there to see something amazing. And as a result, the space, the festivals themselves just become an amazing place to perform.
We love music, we love performing. It's what drew us to Renfest, the family atmosphere, being able to be with and raise our child in 7 days a week, seeing her 7 days a week, being around if she's sick. Having that has been really great, and that's one of the reasons why I think we are here.
Yeah, that is a good thing, and it has brought me into a piece of life that I never thought I'd get into. I certainly travel a lot more than I used to.
It was a home away from home, even if I didn't know anybody.
It's also a place where you meet new friends, and everyone in Garb is a friend, and it's really kind of a lovely place.
No matter where else I've gone in my career, be it a Renaissance fair, a state fair, sold out, amphitheater, whatever, my love has always been these fairs. It's always been festivals. It's always been, this is the core of why I love doing what I'm doing.
And we did our first Renfest, and there were kids running around. You know, I had come as a patron since, I think, 99 would have been my first fair in San Antonio. And you see it from the front side, and it's fun, it looks cool. Then you see it from the back side, and like, it's an actual community. You know, and all my buddies that are touring, all my buddies that made it in music, you get to be in a different place every day, every 2 days. You don't get to be a part of it. Here, it's like, we knew half of the festival when we arrived. and we're here for a month. So it's like this little traveling community. And then it was, you can actually have a family and tour doing music and live in a place for a month to 2 months with support systems and community.
To me, it was more of a relaxing and a stress relief, trying to go there and listen to the different music and the different performers, and it was just a lot of fun. So
whether it's the patron coming in to visit, or the people I see at each of the different shows, or if it's the best friend that I've made over the last 5 or 6 years, it's family.
We are beginning our 2020 season when the COVID-19 pandemic hit us, and it hit us hard.
America has become the epicenter of the pandemic. The death toll doubled in just 2 days, and America's top infectious disease specialist is now warning that millions of people face infection and 200,000 could die,
causing all festivals across the nation to cancel.
Sometime in November or even October that my husband had mentioned something about this virus in China that was causing a lot of problems over there, and he kept following it and telling me things about it, and I was less than interested because, well, it didn't really affect me. And then in February it started getting a little closer.
I was working the Florida Renaissance Festival, and we were doing an Ottoman party, and they decided to drain the kegs, and nobody told us why.
Well, we were actually performing at the Arizona Renaissance Festival, and I was hearing little whispers, but not, just like, whatever. That's just, people are freaking out about some virus because media, blah, 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 blah. And I think it didn't hit me until I heard that South by Southwest was canceled. Yeah. And then I was like, no, like that's huge. Like that's a huge money thing. And just like everybody like spends an entire year getting ready for that event. There's no way that would cancel. And then, so that kind of was my reality check.
We were at FLARF Friday, March 14th. And 13th, we got the news.
Friday the 13th.
Was it the 13th? Friday the 13th, that's what it was.
Yeah.
It was Friday the 13th at 7:30 in the morning, and we got the text that there would not be opening due to pandemic.
I went back to my stage to get ready for my last show, and on my way back, I was seeing everybody with their phones just, oh, did you see the governor announced that we can't have this many people around? And what's this mean? Is the fair over? And it was patrons gossiping. I saw booth operators panicking. I saw cast members in tears. And I just thought, I just have to get back to my last show and make this the best show that I can.
We were at the Florida Renaissance Festival when we first found out about the shutdowns of COVID, and we were in fact weren't quite finished the run. We had a few weeks to go, so it kind of hit us kind of hard. We didn't really understand the full ramifications. And I don't know if a lot of people did at that point, but yeah, and we had to head home up the East Coast, and it was odd.
We had a Patty's Day gig the next day, and we got up because we were able to line up a Patty's Day gig since the fair closed. So we got up, and hearing a Rennie camp silent on a Saturday morning, no jangles, no horses whinnying, no food, nothing, it was scary.
No doors opening and closing, no porta-johns. It was just totally silent. It was depressing.
It was depressing. It was scary.
Immediately a wave of depression that hit.
I cried. I was very upset. I was very depressed. And when it finally kind of hit me and I realized we're not having a fair, I don't know how to describe it. It almost felt wrong.
Yeah, once South by Southwest went down, it was just a domino of just venues closing, festivals canceling, and we were still performing. And it was only probably a week in that time that we first heard about that until we got canceled. And in that week, with only 2 or 3 performance days, that felt like a long time.
Yeah.
And that was, it was a shock and it was scary, but we also, I mean, it all happened so quickly. It was just, it's kind of confusing and disorienting.
I was just trying to concentrate on keeping, you know, these guys fed, keeping the other stuff, you know, on the other continents rolling. And the people that are in charge of those other programs are very savvy at, you know, at getting stuff.
When I heard Maryland's was canceled, that's when I kind of, like, my hopes were dashed for us. Again, I think it was the safest choice. I don't want anyone to get sick. I don't want con crud to kind of explode into something that hurts my friends.
My initial reaction was, crap, I'm at my home fair, what about my friends?
To that day, to this day even, that was my last time at a fair. Still haven't gone back yet.
It felt like I was missing something. I was missing a big part of myself.
First, when I heard about it, it was like, oh crap. Now what? I immediately felt a lovely camaraderie among all of the people in our neighborhood because we all tried to help each other. We knew that lots of kids weren't prepared for this.
We all got together the night before, a lot of us musicians. We were wondering if there would be fair the next day, and we had this big jam session and sang the quarantine blues, right?
Yeah, it went on forever and ever. But...
Well, and we were touring down there and on the way home, and it hadn't really set in as to what was truly going on, and so like I was reaching out to our venues.
Oh yeah, because we still had a couple pubs.
Yeah, I was reaching out to our venues in New Mexico and in Missouri and the places we were planning on coming up back on the way up. And I said, are we still on? Like, do we have to kill a couple of weeks here in Arizona before we leave because we got to make these show dates? And you know, one by one, places got back and just said, I don't think it's happening. Like, we're not sure what's going on, but our state seems to be closing down. And so we started kind of getting cued into what was going on while we were down in the Southwest. Just, wow, this is happening everywhere.
I guess the main way the festival lack of them affected me was heartbreak from my friends. Seeing all of them have to figure out, you know, where are they going to stay, where are they going to go, where are they going to be, how are they going to get through this string of, you know, huge income loss.
I had probably 4 freezers full of food for these guys already at that point, so like it was going to be a while before I was going to be really concerned about stuff. Fortunately, it just played out to working out.
As our lives are turned upside down, we frantically yet diligently redefined who we were and how we would continue some fragment of the life we led. We fought to keep our heads above a river bent on trying to drown us. We persevered and did what we do best. We evolved. We found ways to share our individual gifts across the nation in many different ways that did not require us to be face to face. But we did it. It wasn't easy.
I tend not to give things that aren't happening a lot of energy. I fully believe you get what you think about most. And I wanted things to go back to where everybody could go to work, you know?
It affected me in the moment, you know, with my fair being the last fair that happened before everything shut down in Arizona. To me, feeling like just absolutely heartbroken for the people who were going to be even more affected because this is their lives, you know. It means the world to them. It means the world to us, regardless of how many fairs you do. It's everything.
We kept thinking everything would reopen. So we got to home base and never unpacked because we were getting back on the road.
Come here in June.
This happened in March and this was the next fair and we swore it would be done by then.
Yeah.
So it was this confusion of what do we do next? What do we do now? How do we support our family? If fairs don't reopen, what's going on?
How long do we hold out?
How long do we not unpack? How long do we not settle? How do we get 9-to-5 jobs at this point? What do we do?
Yeah.
kind of went into my like panic survivor mode. I mean, we were fortunate that we had a bunch of money in savings. We had enough money in savings that it, like, the thought of losing a few months of income wasn't, we weren't going to lose our house. And we are fortunate. I know a lot of our colleagues were not in that position. So I at least had that kind of reassuring me.
I went from being able to work and being able to travel and make money for my family and my son to being a staying at home mom, which I was not ready for. That's a lot. And spending every day of my life at home and with my son. And it's not a bad thing, but you get a little cabin fever after a while.
To not have any festivals or work for a year was really hard. Not just monetarily, but emotionally as well. To not know when you were going to be back and be able to play, if or
right,
or who knows, you know.
Yeah.
We all kind of banded together and helped each other out. I gave away a lot of mangoes, and other people gave away food, and everything. Everybody sold things at cost just so they didn't go into too much stock and no one to sell it to because festivals were closed.
I frankly have become much more cynical about people's ability to follow very basic public health things like, oh, I don't know, wearing a mask, distancing. Actually, I think it's less social distancing than personal distancing. I've run into some people like that yelling at me as I walk down the street in my own neighborhood to the effect that I'm afraid of something. No, I'm cautious. I'm aware of what's going on, and I know a little bit about the science of contagion.
It's been up and down, for sure. I think I've definitely had a lot of personal growth in the past year and a half, more than I think I could say in a long time, and I feel like that's going to be something I really bring to my comeback, and especially in the vein of, like, don't take even 1 second of what we're doing out there for granted, because you never know what's going to stop.
For a while, anything that reminded me of FAIRE hurt me to look at, made me cry, made me upset, made me not want to be in the same room as the stuff.
Thankfully, I had a really supportive family. I still do. They financially, emotionally, and mentally supported me through the whole shutdown and not being able to work. There were multiple times where I just would have mental breakdowns and cry because I missed working. And my family was like, it's okay, you guys are gonna be able to work again soon, you know, just take this time to realize and value it.
And we were supposed to do one in June, and that I was so not ready to go face the world.
After West Virginia did cancel, Great Lakes then didn't cancel until the day before it opened. And the whole time we were contracted. So we drove up there. So again, there was another time, that was July 11th. So now we're from March to July, that we kept prepping to hit the road in 3 weeks, in 4 weeks. And this was the pattern for 10 freaking months. I wish I would have known in March, you're done for 10 months. Just go home, set something up online. I wish I would have known it. Yeah. The worst part was having to just continually adjust. By the time it got to September, like I was almost twitching at just the idea of going back on the road, because it's just like, well, no, we're gonna get there, and it's not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen.
It was like, you know, the boy who cried wolf over and over and over again, which was brutal. I wish I would have known.
Yeah, it was emotionally exhausting.
My husband has a chronic lung issue, and he's one of those people that if he had caught it, he would die. So I was in a constant state of frenzy, making sure that he did not catch it. And so we closed our doors, and we didn't let anybody in our house, and we didn't go to people's places. We stopped going to restaurants. Of course, they were closed, but even when they opened back up, we did not go.
We started a Patreon page, and that made things a little more hectic in the way that, like, we had to do something all the time. but at the same time, like it helped, you know, it helped keep some stuff together. And I think ultimately at the end of the day, it helped kind of maybe make a few more people aware of us.
I think I went downstairs and spent about 36 hours setting up a live stream setup.
Yeah.
Cameras, lights, technology, internet.
All of it.
All of it.
Ring lights.
Ring lights.
You name it. Because on Friday the 13th, when everything shut down, I looked at him and I said, we need reliable internet. We need to set up Patreon. We need to figure out live streamings right away. Like, we need to do something because we don't know how long this is going to be. We hope it's short, but so yeah, we had to pretty much build an entire film studio
in like
downstairs.
2 days.
I think the first week we set up in our front hall. We just set up our banners as a backdrop and set up this phone and did a live stream, and it was terrible because we had really crappy
it was just the cell service.
Wi-Fi hotspot through our cell phone, and it was awful.
So,
but we started live streaming like right away.
I mean, we're both multi-instrumentalists, you know, and we are very serious about music. We perform medieval and Renaissance music, and it requires a lot of study and a lot of practice to keep up all the instruments. And sometimes you get to that point where, well, I have all this time to practice, but there's no thing in sight. There's nothing that we're practicing for, and it's kind of messes with the head a little bit, or it did.
Yeah, some of us sat around depressed and ate our feelings.
Once we decided that if fairs are going to reopen, we want to be there. Like, we went through the whole weeks and months long process of do we get muggle jobs? Do we get normal jobs? And once we decided no, what got me through the pandemic was frankly, practicing, playing stuff, working on stuff, because otherwise, what do you do? And I had to look forward. And so in a lot of ways, it also made me kind of dive in feet first, full bore once everything opened back up, because now that we can see what we didn't have, I wanted it that much more.
And after the camaraderie started, and we all felt enveloped in this beautiful place of care, the reality set in that, holy crap, we got no money. We're not going to have money, and nobody knows what this is or how long it's going to last. And oh God, now people are dying. Now what? Oh my God. It was just such a shock.
But we were not alone. While we lived the festivals, others, those who patronized them, did as well in their own ways. It was a huge loss for people who found their sense of belonging, their own particular groups or tribes of family, among other patrons at the festivals who helped them feel complete. They too struggled with the same loss.
I think month, 2 months, maybe even 3 months, I was very depressed. I was barely getting up. I wasn't really doing much. I think I was watching TV most of the time, and it was like I wasn't even working on costumes. I had a ton of costumes that I needed to get done, but I couldn't even, it almost felt like I couldn't even look at them, because it was like, what's the point?
I was pretty upset and pretty shattered. Not just for myself, but for my friends at the festivals who are vendors, who are performers, who are just general workers, boothies, whatever you'd like to call them.
I'm not going to fit my costumes anymore, and that's kind of a bit depressing. A lot of people stayed home, and there's not a lot you can do. You can go out and do a whole lot. You had to avoid everybody, but you didn't avoid food. So I probably put on about 25, 30 pounds, and it affects me in a lot of ways because I can't enjoy it anymore like I used to.
The other thing I did when I heard it was canceled, after feeling sad a little bit for Scarborough, is I wanted to make sure that the actors and vendors that I go to every year were okay, and I made some pretty large purchases from some of my favorite vendors. And then I discovered Digital Renaissance Fair and the Fair 2020 page, which has been amazing. I've met so many new, amazing actors and vendors that I didn't know existed before, and I have purchased from them as well and donated to their PayPals. I feel like it has broadened my horizon of things out there, but it's not the same as actually going to FAIRE.
My boyfriend, he knew how important the FAIRE was to me, so he helped me, you know. He'd come home from work and I would have my entire outfit on and he'd be like, "You look great," you know, and he was very supportive.
I can't wear my costumes the way I used to. I've had to go through about 3 or 4 different sizes in clothing, which has been really painful. And there's no way I can get a costume right now without throwing together something simple like a gypsy costume where you can do a real quick seam and little stretchies around the whatever waistline I have left. There's no fancy costumes like I had before. And I think that's upsetting. I probably will end up having to go looking very bored. I'm not looking forward to that, but it is what it is, and you just kind of deal with it.
We fought to stay afloat. We fought to stay sane. We fought to remain the people we were, in hopes that soon the darkness and horizon would subside.
Well, I was afraid. I was afraid for my family. I was afraid for people. I became a little bit obsessed with trying to get everyone to wash their hands and wear the masks and wear the gloves and be real careful because they needed to not die.
A really cool thing happened too. This last spring, we got to play an outdoor show. It was the first live show that we had done since the Minnesota Renaissance Feast of Fantasy thing that we did in the fall. And so we were outdoors at a meadery, and a whole bunch of the people that were on our live streams showed up, and they had never met in person before, and they were all sitting together and laughing together like old friends. So
it was great.
We ended up kind of building a community around our music that I think will live on past our music.
Probably.
But it was a weird time delving into something that I always have liked doing a little bit of video work, but this was something that I'd never considered and technologically wasn't possible a few years ago. And we got it up to a level that I'm pretty proud of. It was a pretty high level, and it kept us sharp, playing music and learning new songs and
learned a lot of new music.
Wanted to write and do all that. So it professionally it was, I won't say it was good for us, but it was a different sort of tangent.
We made some lemonade.
Yeah.
Ultimately, after a while, it makes you question: is life going to get back to normal? Are we going to be playing again? Is it going to be safe? I mean, when we go back, are we going to mask? Are we not going to mask? How does that affect how we play? Especially, singing in woodwind instruments, or, you're right up and close with people and you can't do that.
Right, doing street.
Mm-hmm.
It's all unknown.
I know everybody was ready to get back to work, us included, but also not yet. I wanted to get back safely, and I think we were hyper aware that some festivals had opened, some festivals had run responsibly, and I had no doubt that Arizona would be one of those. But also, I think we were all really aware that, like, if a super spreader event was linked to a music show or a festival, that it was going to be just that much longer until we actually got back to work for real.
I had a really funny conversation with Doug Conjolko from Don Juan and Miguel in Pennsylvania. They hadn't done anything, in a while, and they were at their PA, and he was, backstage with me one time, and he was like, "Well, we haven't really rehearsed, and I guess we'll just." I'm like, "Doug, you went to high school with my stepmom, and you've been doing this since I was a little kid. You'll be fine." He's like, "I hope so," and I'm like, "Shut up, you're fine."
We did return. We were very lucky and did return to FAIRE early, and we returned to FAIRE in November, where normally we would be at our home fair, Carolina Renaissance Festival. We got the opportunity to go open up Suncoast down in Sarasota, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So we did get to return to work, and it was terrifying. It was terrifying because it was still in the middle of the pandemic, and some patrons are ready to ditch the mask and ditch the protocols and go back to normal life, and we're very happy to be back in our performance. Can you please Step away. Can you please do the right thing so that we can continue to do this? And some patrons were receptive. Others, whenever we would thank people or remind people to wash their hands and wear their mask, would get up and leave. And it was weird, but we got really lucky.
Even my manager would be like, hey, if you can't wear a mask or if you're not vaccinated, please get out of my shop. And even though she said it respectfully, the scoffs, the disgusted looks, the backfire that came to her, and she held on to it like a warrior. But it was still very appalling to hear those things from people, and that's probably why, like, if I was even experiencing those small parts in a small Texas fair, I can't imagine what it was like anywhere else, where people are very to themselves.
About 7 or 8 years ago, I had a fair owner come and literally move my show from a joust field, where it had always been, to a stage and his chessboard, because he wanted the birds to be closer to people, because he noticed that I was not shy about doing that, and I'm very good with, you know, making sure stuff doesn't go wrong, and so I've gotten kind of spoiled in the way that, like, I'm used to being close to people. So Pennsylvania, when we opened in September, that was a little rough, just because I was like, okay, so fortunately that was back when the mask mandates were still very solid, and so I didn't really have to worry about patrons. But for myself, I was like, well, fuck, now I gotta put a mask on to do this thing. So I completely excommunicated myself out of that, and I had one of my assistants either with them and stuff, and them flying the birds and me just doing all the talking and stuff. But it made me genuinely appreciative of being able to get that experience to people.
Well, the Texas Renaissance Festival, actually, they did open. I did not open last fall because we opted out. We had a 5-day window to decide whether we felt safe enough to open or not. And perhaps if we had a little bit longer, we may have opened, but we did not.
When I think all of us out in November and then even January, you know, when it seemed like stuff might be returning to normal, we were, I think, painfully aware of the fact that if any Renfest became a super spreader, all Renfests were in danger. Mm-hmm. And everyone was looking to the open fairs for seeing how was masking. Mm-hmm. Everyone was looking to the open fairs, and then when they started pushing back and closing again for early 2021, when we're out at a fair, you know, that was scary.
Fortunately for us, like the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair, the entertainment director there, she did everything that she could have done to make that a great thing. And she picked all the independents were there that year were people that I feel like were on the upside of sane, you know. And so I think that helped us all have a really, really good season, you know, overall. And I don't feel like maybe she got enough credit for that, but that was huge. You know, she's hands down, she was one of the best entertainment directors I've ever worked with.
As the pandemic continued on, the weeks turned into months. The months turned into a year, and we did not know what was in store for 2021 when we started hearing festivals canceling yet again.
The beginning of 2021, yeah, it looked like things might be coming back online almost immediately, and for us that meant heading back to Arizona, where we got canceled from. And
we still weren't vaccinated, there still weren't vaccines.
Yeah,
that kind of became my hyper focus, was like, I gotta get a vaccine.
Yeah, the anticipation of going back, I mean, that was a festival, it's a great festival, and we just started performing there. The anticipation of going back was battling the anticipation of maybe bowing out for a year, and we didn't quite know what decision we were gonna make. It changed every minute, and we watched intently as they announced that they were going to try to open.
This is probably the angriest I have been in the past year and a half. Because again, Arizona is my only fair. I remember like the late half of 2020, we were told in an email, everyone was, whether you were local, national, whatever, everyone was told, hey guys, Arizona's gonna open. we are going to open our fair for 2021. So get ready. There's more info coming. Like 10 days later, not even a full like 2 weeks, we get another email that it's not happening.
We were supposed to go stay in Florida. Florida canceled. You know, Arizona. When it started to look like we were looking at summer. Oh gosh.
Still not having heard from contracts from fairs that might open or may not open. All of the summer fairs at that point were so uncertain, and now there's fairs closing down, and we're going, great, we got to go on the road again for 2 to 3 months, and now we're gonna go back to hiding. I don't know how to handle this, so it was scary. It was very scary.
As much as I'd love to say that I was surprised that fairs were starting to close, I found it difficult to blame the management, and actually kind of applauded those managements as they made the decisions to shutter, because I kind of had seen it coming. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is up to interpretation, but pandemic coming along, humans are humans, people get interesting.
When I heard that we might get to go back this year, I think there was a part of me that was like, oh, don't get your hopes up. I think there was a part of me that almost didn't believe that it was going to happen because I was scared. I was scared to get my hopes up and then have them crushed like that again, you know? I don't think I really appreciated how much I had.
People were not taking precautions and like not adhering to fair rules, and so it's kind of like the one bad apple spoils the whole bunch type of scenario, which ended up hurting us too, because then we can't work, we can't make our livelihood because people don't want to follow rules.
I was so relieved when Arizona decided not to open. I mean, I was devastated that it had to close, but I would have been more devastated had I had to say no to a festival that was happening.
Yeah, I believe that it was the right decision for them to close. I'm not saying that it was the wrong decision for any of the festivals that were able to be open, and I think that's great, because I know a lot of the performers and workers needed the work, and frankly I think a lot of the patrons needed the entertainment. Mm-hmm. But I think that the festivals that chose to close made the right choice also, in an abundance of safety for us and for the people that come and enjoy it.
I had honestly prepared to not have another year of festivals.
I was more concerned about people on both ends of the spectrum just being psychotic and just being a general pain in my ass. Like, we all knew the rules. We all knew, like, whether we liked them or not, that was what it was going to be. And for me, like, if that's what it took for me to go back to work and take care of these guys, wear a mask, wear clown shoes, whatever it is, I'll do the thing. It's not that hard.
I never had hopes that the beginning of 2021 was magically going to erase everything that had happened. It was actually kind of annoying that people thought that was the thing, because it's not going to be, and it wasn't going to be, and it was not. I was concerned about Florida opening. I didn't want them to open because Florida has had a lot of people with COVID, a high percentage, and the county where our festival was one of the highest affected.
You had this big breath that was going to keep you going, and someone just knocked it right out of you. And you were back to being just a breathless husk on the floor with no direction.
It was the first quarter of 2021 when many of the festivals finally began opening up with health restrictions, but again, open nonetheless. And soon a vaccine came out, and people finally began taking it, brightening the light at the end of the tunnel. The world began to heal.
It's so good to be home. It's so good to be home.
Thank God. Oh, the last few weeks have just finally felt like
it's happening. We're back in business.
there was all that that worry that it wouldn't happen, and you know, it's like a huge weight going. Okay, it worked.
Makes you want to go and frolic through the hills.
It really
Oh wait,
does.
we're doing that now.
Getting back to fairs definitely has the fact that I can get my hair braided again. I've had a couple of coworkers already noticing that, like, oh my god, she's smiling more than she used to, or she's peppier than she normally is. Oh my god, she's not complaining that she's tired today. And I've had one coworker, after I came back from a festival, comment that I was shining, and that just kind of made my day a little bit.
I still remember how it felt when I got out of my car for the first time. And even that feeling, it makes me want to cry, but in a good way. Because there was something about those gates after a year, after everything that happened in 2020, I immediately knew in my heart I was home.
Scarborough threatened to open and said anytime, at any given moment, if you decide you don't feel safe and you don't want to open, you just let us know and we'll let you out, and we won't be mad at you. And I thought, that sounds great. That's awesome. And so actually right up until about 3 days before we opened, I was still on the fence. I was thinking I could just not open. So there was that.
It was a little weird to, like, when we first, because we just kind of slowly, and I'm still not sure how I feel about this, but we kind of slowly let our guard down as far as wearing masks indoors. Even, you know, CDC says it's fine. So we kind of just slowly backed off of that. And now I'm home and I'm going, shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
So
I've been definitely rushing to get to as many as I can financially afford. My first fair of the year, I was down at Georgia's Renaissance Festival. And it was kind of weird for me. Just because I hadn't been around people for so long. I was torn between wanting to keep my distance from everybody because cooties, everybody has cooties now.
Yeah, we just finished a run at the Robin Hood Springtime Festival. The first fair back, kind of, right?
For us, yeah. Some of our friends had been down in the South performing fairs already, but this was the first one for us, springtime, 2021.
What a joy.
It was...
Things are decent, you know. I'm going out of this show into Colorado, which I haven't been at since 1998, since I was jousting. So I haven't been there for a long time, but they haven't had a bird show for 20 years. So I feel like that's probably going to be a big deal. And then I go right out of that show back into Pennsylvania. And I've been a PA since 2003. So
I was terrified. I was terrified to get back with people. I don't know where they've been. I don't know what they've been doing. I don't know if they have an asymptomatic case of COVID that's going to give it to me and kill my husband. Was I excited about going back to work? No, I wasn't. I mean, I was excited about the notion of being able to work, but was I excited about the idea of being at work? No. We put up the shields and we wore the gloves and we wore the masks and we insisted on the masks and we asked everybody to wear the masks, and we got the rolls of the eyes from some people. We got the, oh, I'm so sorry from others, and we got through it and we enjoyed it. I actually loved being back to work, even though I hated every second of the masks and I hated every second of the gloves.
But it's great to be back. You know, being able to be on stage again, being able to see my audience, being able to talk to people afterwards is just, the live streams were awesome, but they're not
the same.
They're not.
The plastic barriers between us, and everything had to change inside my shop. I hated it. But it was really good to be back to work.
Yeah, it's been a real roller coaster to go back, you know, and be glad and try and maintain in the back of your head, okay, I'm just gonna make sure that I I do somewhat social distance, but even though I'm unvaccinated, I should make people feel comfortable. So it's been an extra something to keep in the back of our heads as we sally forth into the world again.
But as soon as I hit the fairground, that first time I ever came to fair, I knew that I would have friends there, I would have family there, and I do. Just being able to see them again this season, being able to talk to them, let them know what's been going on in my life, it took such a weight off of my shoulders that I didn't even know was there.
I didn't care what it was going to take for me to go back to work. You know, a mask, a stupid hat, clown shoes, whatever it was. Yes, could it be a problem? Sure. Could it be annoying? Sure. If that's what it takes for us to be able to be allowed to work and take a paycheck, I'm in.
The second we got fully vaccinated, I took away my mask and I threw that specific one in the garbage because I was so done with it. And I was like, it feels so good to just walk into a store and take a breath and not be worried like, oh my God, who's next to me? Like, so that was really nice too. And it was nice to return to fair and not have to feel like that as well.
I also wanted to hug every single last person that I saw there that I knew and just tell them how happy I was to see them safe and sound and at the fair.
Even in dealing with now being back on the road, even dealing with patrons, it's still, there's a bit of reserve. I think we all became a bit guarded and more aware of the hygiene, especially in fair. Yeah, that has changed to me a lot because I don't hug as much as I used to. I'm not constantly shaking people's hands the way that I used to. I'm constantly washing my hands, which, you know, we did before, but it wasn't in the middle of a pandemic. And having a 2-year-old at home, we are very much aware of all of that. And even being vaccinated, we're very conscious about what we could bring home to her.
You know, for so long, I used to wake up from dreams because I'd be dreaming I'd be in a crowd and I had no mask on, and I'd be like, oh my God, I'm in a crowd with no mask. And then all of a sudden, there we were, because just before this fair opened in Connecticut, the restrictions were all lifted. And, you know...
Yeah, the day before it was due to open, they lifted everything.
Everything. And the president had said, you know, take off your masks. So, I mean, there were still some restrictions at the fair, but it was kind of odd to all of a sudden be in this situation where here I am in this dream where I don't have a mask and most people don't. And I understood we're vaxxed. A lot of people are vaxxed, but it was just still
culture shock, maybe?
Yeah, a little surreal, maybe a little something.
It was nice to see the colors of the flags and the banners and the signs go up, and it was nice to see people in costume, and it felt like home. But the home where you've got locked doors and closed windows and you keep people out.
I think that might have been what I missed the most, was my family out at the fair. But I also missed, like I said, being able to dress up and just be a kid almost. It's like you go out to fair and you don't have to be this one person. You don't have to be what everybody says that you are or says that you have to be. You get to just be yourself, and I missed that so much.
I'm bringing an intensity, a passion, just a whole different level of love and respect for this festival and festivals as a whole. Now that I've once again been reminded what life was like without them, and I will be damned if I take any of that for granted upon my return.
I literally last weekend made this little girl's day. She ran through my maze, had a fit that she couldn't find the hidden unicorn, and I came out and gave her a glitter bottle and did my whole fairy spiel, and this kid went from full tears to absolutely smiling, and I lived for that.
I think we're all a bit gun shy of letting down our guards too far.
Yeah. I think the flip side of what makes it okay, because I had to think about this a lot, because I don't want to be part of the problem, you know, is we are outside. We are outside. we can keep 6-foot distance, especially us as performers.
Yes.
You know, especially us as participants. This is something we can control. And like we just said with all the mental health, I do think there is a need for patrons after 15 months also without FAIRE. If we do this all responsibly and well, like, this is a service, I feel.
Yeah.
As long as all the things are kept in mind and we're all doing it, you know, for the health of the company. You know, like, there's a service in this. And I think we're always aware of that, at least, that don't let the guard down, that this is still here, but done responsibly. We are doing a service, so let's do it extra responsibly.
Yeah.
So that we can all still do it.
We need it, patrons need it. We all need RenFest.
But there's nothing like having an audience when you're clicking as a band and you've got that moment that music is just going and everybody is caught up in it. And, oh, you know, there's nothing like it. And when you don't have it, you really, really miss it.
Yeah, and it's not just, you know, being on stage, it's just being at the fair. It's like, you know, when the gate opens and somebody walks in and that magic happens for them and they're like, oh my God, and they're in that moment. You know, and there's moments like that all through the day. We always talk at the end of the day, what was your favorite moment, whether it's some interaction with a young child
kid,
or
some patron wants to play along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those things are so important for both sides. I mean, because the people coming, yeah, that's what you want. And for us, it's just that magic, that connection, that we're making this whole thing work.
What I miss the most is working with my clients. I run a business that helps people and brings them health and well-being. And to be honest, it's awesome that they put their trust in me. And it's awesome that they talk to me and tell me their situations, and we help each other. And I miss my people.
I will probably drop to my knees in that terrible Gold Canyon gravel and just let whatever emotions want to come just wave over me, you know. If whatever piece of my soul I left on those fairgrounds wants to slam back into my chest with the force of a cannon and knock me on my back, cool.
I feel so many things that it's hard to put into words. It's hard to explain, especially to people who haven't felt it. It's hard to explain that this is why it's so important, why it means so much. When you have this one place, when you have this one group that you know that no matter what, through anything, they'll support you, they'll be by your side.
And there we were, a year and a half after the biggest schism in our lives, leaving no one in the nation untouched. We were finally returning home to the life we belonged, to the warm, heartfelt embraces of those we call family. We were returning home. We knew that it may never be the same, nor may we. For this crisis, whether for the good or for the bad, has changed us as a people, as a band of vagabonds.
I think we've all been affected in a variety of ways. My main thing was during last summer was just so consumed and so enraged, and so everything was big, everything was exacerbated, everything was giant, and I couldn't take my eyes off the internet screen, and I couldn't take my eyes out of the news, and I constantly had COVID in my head, and COVID this and COVID that and COVID everything, and it consumed me to the point where I don't know when or what, because it all blurs, but I completely shut down. It was like 4 or 5 days, and I thought, wow, I haven't looked at the internet and the news for days now, and my brain just shut down. It would not accept any more negative energy or any more negative information. It was too much.
I think for me, it kind of made me reassess, and I think for a lot of people, I don't think I'm unique in this, but just reassessing my values and what's important to me, and it was either give this all up and go back to the office job that I just left like 2 years ago, and have, you know, live safely and unhappily, or kind of double down on doing this performance thing. And I had that choice to make.
No more sharing flasks.
No more
Not that we ever did that during fair days.
No, but even with friends, like no sharing flasks,
For
no
real.
sharing...
Dry fairs, I was always good.
No sharing glasses, the days of patrons coming up and like pouring stuff in your mug. Here's a water,
weird.
have my water. No, that's...
Even weirder, it almost seems now it would be a faux pas to be seen doing that. You know, even regardless of your own comfort levels, when you're performing on stage, like that feels like a faux pas.
Definitely going to try to keep other patrons aware of, you know, hey, if you really want to help out with, you know, if you really want to support the festivals and you don't know how to do it, here's a nonprofit organization that I have learned about that is really awesome. And, you know, let's see if we can do something. Let's see if we can do an event where we can raise money for them.
Like, definitely more cautious than I used to be, you know. Obviously, one of the first notions of COVID was like, oh, wash your hands. And I never realized how often I did not wash my hands before this all was a thing. But now it's a very regular thing. And, you know, I don't go out near people if I think they're sick or I feel sick.
We're all people that, you know, we see each other once a year or twice a year, depending on what fair you go to. And yet we support each other more than I think a lot of us have gotten support from other places in our life. I saw families that they had never even thought about coming to the Ren Fair, and they were there. I saw kids that had been stuck inside for a year, just running around, having fun.
And, you know, anyone that finds something that they love to do, whether it's performing music or, you know, banking or, you know, fixing mopeds, whatever it is, if that gives you joy, you know, that's what you should be able to do. And we so appreciate what we do, and we appreciate what everyone does, because we can't all do the same thing, but there's this whole balance of people on both sides of the festival. It's an ecosystem that you know, we require performers, but it requires patrons of all kinds and different vendors
and staff. I mean, you absolutely need good security and the trash people and the people cleaning up the restrooms. You need all those people.
There's a particular joy that's happening right now. Festivals are always a festive, joyful place, but there's a particular joy as they're reopening and people are kind of getting out and seeing their friends and their family and their favorite performers again that I haven't seen maybe ever.
I'm hoping that everyone else gets to see their fairs open again. I'm hoping that everyone gets to see their families again. And here's to another great fair season.
Whether or not our people decided to return to the festivals or not, we all will and forever be a family.
Will you go with me to the fair? The season is here. The friends we've missed will all be there. Will you join me, my dear?
Will you go with me to the fair? Then we'll celebrate. I'll put on my best garb and I'll braid my hair, and I'll meet you at the opening gate. The jugglers will be juggling and the knights will be bold as acrobats fly.